I'm Edward Warfield. I'm the publisher of Citybiz, and I'm honored today to interview Mickey Adam Khan, who is the president of Luxury Portfolio International. Welcome, Mickey.
Thank you for having me, Edwin. A real pleasure.
If you could, please give us an introduction to Luxury Portfolio International.
Excellent. Thank you. Edwin, Luxury Portfolio International is the leading network of independent luxury real estate brokerages worldwide. We have about 220 members who are basically independent, family-owned, or just partner-owned companies in 70 countries, employing about 150,000 real estate agents. And these firms are locally entrenched in their markets. And what we do is we help them with their marketing, research, events, brand collaborations, education and training, and obviously offering standard advertising, discounted packages. So we are their backbone when it comes to luxury marketing and networking. Our members basically are firms that interact with each other, and they target high net worth individuals. So the average listing is about $1 million on our in our database, and we at any given moment we have about 20,000 listings on our website, and we do our best to make sure that those homes move.
Tell me about the importance and the advantages and the value of being a part of a member-centric network of independent residential real estate brokerages such as Luxury Portfolio. What are the advantages to the members, and more importantly, what are the advantages to each member's top agents, especially in such an uber competitive?
Yes, it's a very important question. Why is Luxury Portfolio so key to our members' future and growth, right? I mean, as you alluded, this is a very competitive market. Right now, luxury properties are selling left, right, and center. We don't have enough listings. The demand is extremely high. Supply cannot meet demand. What it means is our members have to be very smart in the way they go and attract listings. Their agents have to be totally upskilled and knowledgeable about the market. So when they go and pitch a prospective seller and say, hey, I can get you the value you want for your particular home versus, say, a competitor agent. So we want to make sure that that agent is sufficiently sophisticated, cultured, and has the right marketing support behind that person, right? So that's what we offer. We are their back office when it comes to marketing, retailing, in terms of luxury practices, and anything related to research and advertising buys. If you're an independent family-owned firm, you'll not be able to afford like advertising discounts from the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times. You will not be able to afford to commission an independent study of luxury real estate trends. You won't be able to organize a conference on your own. You won't be able to network and transfer leads from one agent to the next or one brokerage to the next. Being part of our network at a certain cost allows you to do that. And that's the benefit of being part of a network, because you're meeting with like-minded folks, you're benefiting from the efforts of 220 companies, and at the same time, you're getting advantages to bulk discounts because, we buy media in bulk. When we commission research, we have the benefit of basically reaching out to consumers in 20 or 25 countries. Everything that a bigger entity can afford, but independently owned firms on their own cannot. That's why we are very central to these firms. And don't forget, they're up against a lot of competition. Sean named them, but the fact is that these competitors are very fierce. They're very big corporations. They're listed on the stock market. So how do you compete with them? So you need an entity like us to go head-to-head with your competition.
So you joined LPI as president just over a year ago. Tell us how you focused on growing the membership globally and furthering LPI's value proposition.
So how do I intend to grow Luxury Portfolio globally and further the value proposition? Very good question. I think the first and most important thing is to make sure that we don't lose any members. I'm a very big believer in customer retention. As you know, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. That's typically the way in the retail world and in other parts of business. Now, in our case, what I've realized is we have to first upskill our own agents in the network. Right? There are 150,000 agents in the network. So we have to make sure that we give them sufficient resources to be smarter than what they're doing in terms of their best practice and in terms of market outreach. If we are attractive to our existing customer base, word of mouth comes into play, right? They recommend our network to other independent firms in markets where they don't compete. And that's how we can grow a network. So I want our members to be our best evangelists to reach out to other folks on our behalf. Plus, I'm also identifying markets that are ripe for opening. Now, I'll give you an example. Last year, was it the year before last, if you remember, Israel was in talks to basically have diplomatic relationships with a few Arab countries. And then you found out that they opened diplomatic ties with Bahrain, with Sudan, and with the UAE. As that happened, I told one of our business development executives, I said, listen, I gave her a rundown of what's going on in that market politically. I said, listen, the Israelis like to invest in technology, real estate, and they have cash. And they're an organized market. That Israeli money is looking to find homes in Bahrain and the UAE and other markets as they have direct flights back and forth. On the other hand, you've got the Arabs, these UAE guys, they're not just Arabs sitting there, they're expats from the UK and from France and all parts of Europe who are looking to invest in other markets. I said, that's a beautiful opportunity because guess what? People are looking to buy homes, relocate permanently or temporarily. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth, a lot of energy in those markets. We went out and she said, how do you reach out to the Israelis? We don't have a member there. I said, go and take a look at their real estate association. Guess what? She got in touch with them. A few months later, we got our first member in Israel. So what we try to do is we try to follow the geopolitical developments around the world. And that to me is a big thing. Where are the markets opening? Where are the markets showing some interest? Stock markets around the world have performed well, thank God, because it could have gone the other way with the pandemic too. So that's an important factor for us to monitor global trends, also be more attractive to our existing members in terms of retention. And then obviously we field queries from different companies around the world. We very often turn down most requests because they don't meet our criteria. You have to have a set number of listings over $1 million. And so that is very key for us to make sure that we maintain the high standards. So it cannot come at growth at all costs. We have to be very discerning. At the end of the day, we pride ourselves on being luxury, not in the opulent sense, but in the quality sense, right? So we have to maintain our standards. So that's how we do it. Word of mouth, incoming queries, active, proactive outreach based on geopolitical developments, and any other leads or referrals we get.
And so what are the advantages of using a locally owned or regional brokerage when you couple that with the global network?
I think, when you work with a locally owned firm, you're talking to someone who's completely entrenched in their community. Their roots are very deep. And that's the advantage we have. We are not just basically people who are basically just planting the flag and, the flag is only 3 feet deep. No, these guys have been in that community for 20 to 30 to 40 years, right? That's something where, they've developed relationships with suppliers, with people who are pillars of society. And so they can open doors for you. When you work with someone who is local, you're working with people who are invested long-term in that particular community's future. And they're not transferring profits from one market to the next. So that's the benefit of working with locals. Plus, of course, they've got a finger on the pulse of the market, right? So if you're looking to go to Milan, we have a member there. We have a few members in that area, right? They're connected to the fashion industry. They're connected to the building industry. They're connected to transportation, to tourism. And, so when you go in there and you buy a house through them, guess what? You need someone who can fix your pipes. Someone who can do your decor, someone who can do, the roof and tiles and all that. You get everything, doors open, one phone call, done. They're local. And that's what's important to. We've got boots on the ground and they're committed to their community. So we want to stress that fact when, we go out to listing and say, listen, we are independent, we are locally owned, but we are part of a global network. So we have the support of other members and support of other brokerages. So in case we don't have something here, we can always get it from another part of the network too.
I was looking at some of your research reports, which were very insightful. You also have a magazine. Can you tell us about these and how LPI, how this really differentiates you from the competitors?
Yes, and thank you for mentioning the fact that we've got a magazine. I've got the copy right here, and it's obviously Luxury Portfolio magazine. And, this magazine reaches 60,000 highly affluent individuals worldwide. And it's basically distributed to all our members and their agents, but it's also available on newsstands in select parts of the world. In the United States, it's available at Barnes & Noble. And what we try to do with this magazine, it's basically, it is our best ambassador in print. We also have a digital version, and we are styling this as a coffee table book. This is not just a typical real estate magazine. I mean, most real estate magazines have about 20 pages of content in the front of the book, and then there's 100 pages of ad after ad, listing after listing. I don't know about you, but after 5 pages, everything's numb. I'm insensitive to no matter how gorgeous the sunset or how beautiful the sunrise on the beach, it just doesn't register. What we do is we have content, we've divided by travel, real estate, design, and lifestyle. And what we do is every section is interspersed with ads, and there's a break. And the ads are also colorful, and they're vibrant, and there's QR codes on them. So we make sure that the ads are part of the entire content experience, and it's not just loaded at the back of the book. We also work with a lot of famous people, a lot of people who are known in their business for being experts. One of our interviews we did was with Andrew Morton. If you're into any Diana stuff, I mean, if you remember, given that, she was a big thing in the 80s and 90s, she, in 1992, there was this book, Diana, Her Own True Story. And so, we interviewed the author of that book. And, we got all the dirt. Now, unfortunately, when Princess Diana passed away, that's when we found out that, guess what? She actually worked with him to produce that book. So he's in this book. Then we've got articles on handwriting analysis. And, we interview the top expert there. There's a lot of stuff. Then the cover story, we interviewed Susanna Salk, who's a very well-known, blogger, and she's got a YouTube channel called Quintessence, and she goes and interviews designers. So, this cover is basically one of the interviews she did with Charlotte Moss, the interior designer here, and these are her 2 dogs in her study. And so she met 40 designers in England and the United States, and how they deal with their dogs and that whole lifestyle of dog and owner or dog and parent, right? We got pages and pages of that kind of content that inspires. It completely inspires you. These are the listing pages. So when you take a look at this and you send this book to your prospect or to your client, they hang on to this issue because it's fun to read. It's inspiring. It elevates the conversation. It's not just the usual stuff. Hey, this is the best place to have a lobster, and then some shiny lights and the nightlife at Vegas and all that. No, this is serious stuff. And we basically sold out of this issue. We are down to the last 5,000 copies now. So the magazine plays a very important role. And we also have, to complement that, we have a very strong editorial program for our website, luxuryportfolio.com. And we make sure there are fresh articles every day or two. We make sure there are new posts on lifestyle-related issues, on travel, on design. And what we want to do is encourage more visits to the website, and that basically helps our listing because guess what? More eyeballs, right? So the whole experience is driven by a lifestyle focus.
Well, I don't want to digress because this interview is about you, but I do know Andrew Morton because he wrote a book about my great-great-aunt, Wallace Warfield.
Oh, you did?
Wallace Warfield Simpson.
The Duchess of Windsor.
Yes, but we're not going to digress. This interview is not about me, so I know. I will share my story about Andrew Morton later after the interview. So
That's the book you're referring to.
yes,
This one.
yeah, I know Andrew well. So let's continue talking about some of your recent research, which was the finances of the luxury home buyer. And there's some new data that came out saying that 94% probability that a luxury home buyer is already a luxury home buyer. Can you share some of the insights from that report?
Yes. So, that's a very key to remember that, in this market, someone who's buying a luxury home has either owned a luxury home previously or currently owns one. And that's always the case with that affluent market. It's very rare that you crack the, you come from the non-luxury segment immediately and you go to the luxury segment. It takes a while to do that. So what we found in this pandemic, especially with international buyers, is that folks who had, comfort with larger homes, willing to pay more for, amenities and all that kind of stuff, they were very comfortable buying a home with the equal expense and the equal maintenance and all that kind of stuff, because they're already familiar with that type of living. So, they always say, right, when you've got a big house or you've got a property and you're looking to find a buyer, guess what? You got two leads right there, the person to your right and the person to the left, because those are your first two options if you want to sell the house. Does the neighbor want to buy them? So same thing in luxury. You're looking for people who have a proven track record of actually having bought a luxury home. Our research confirmed that. So when we talk about marketing your luxury home or marketing your home, always target folks who fit that mindset or who also fit that demographic. So that's what our report confirmed.
And so you joined LPI right in the throes of the pandemic. And so how has the luxury market fared globally, and what has surprised you? And are there any trends you believe that will remain going forward?
So, yes, I joined this company at a very interesting time. I think it was interesting for most folks. For those of us who survived, we were okay. Unfortunately, it did take a lot of people down. I think, everyone talks about the positives, but we have to remember that this pandemic is still ongoing. And I feel like, the one thing that has changed with the pandemic and the one thing that surprised me was the panic. I mean, it's like people thought that this was the end of the world. And they made this mad rush to buying properties left, right, and center. And what really helped them was the fact that the stock market has performed spectacularly. And we know why the stock market has performed, because governments around the world poured billions and trillions of dollars supporting the market, the stimulus programs. And, now we're in the United States, we're going to taper that. And, the U.S. government has poured about $120 billion a month into the bond markets, buying those bonds to keep the market liquid. So I think because the stock market performed well and those portfolios held up and folks did not travel as much, they saved a lot. They also thought about their quality of life, made decisions about ideology and values. Folks from the Northwest chose Idaho, quality of life, but also because it's a red state and, they wanted to, be with people they like or people whose values they admire. So we saw that happen very quickly. I mean, it's a migration. I mean, a few years from now, historians will look on this period and say, oh my God, this was the Great Migration. And, it's like when you look at an airline magazine and you flip to the back of the magazine and you see all the routes going back and forth with the hubs and all these lines crisscrossing. That's what happened in a compressed 18-month period, and it's not stopping. And it's happening mostly in the Western world, because in Asia, it's not the case. I mean, that in Asia, they live in multi-generational family homes, and you can't dispose of homes so quickly. And there's a lot of litigation, all that kind of stuff. And besides, in Asia, people like to move into newer homes when they want to upgrade, newer developments. In the United States, in Canada, in Europe, it's a little different. I mean, they don't mind moving into pre-owned homes. But the ferocity with which these guys made these decisions and the willingness for them to bid and outbid the competitors really was surprising. Will the market stabilize? It will, but I do foresee that there will be strong demand for homes, luxury and non-luxury, because millennials have just entered their peak home buying period, right? This is where they basically buy. And I mean, if you look at the millennials right now, the oldest millennial is what? If you look at 1981 as the first year for millennials, they are 40 years old. The youngest ones are what? I think 2000, right? That's 21, 22. So you're going to see another 5-year, period of growth where there's going to be extreme demand for homes in the luxury segment, unless you have an issue with the stock markets, a sudden change in policy, inflation runs really rampant and out of control. That's a major problem for us right now. I mean, a lot of folks don't recognize that, but inflation could topple an economy. And you know what happened in the 1970s. So, but those are the outliers there. So as long as you don't have terrorism, a conflict with China or Russia over neighbors and all that kind of stuff, if the stock market holds up and the millennials continue this buying trend, you're good. Another thing to keep in mind is baby boomers. The oldest baby boomer is 75 years old, right? So they're looking to downscale. They're looking to move. So we are seeing all this movement from colder states, higher tax states to warmer states, such as Florida and Texas and the Carolinas and, Arizona. So you're going to see more homes come on the market because of that. And then as interest rates rise, the cost of borrowing goes up, refinancing becomes more expensive. Guess what? Inventory will linger longer on the market, and you'll have more homes come on the market. So there'll be a proper balance between supply and demand, but there will be continued demand if all the existing conditions of a stable stock market and a stable geopolitical environment stay.
So that reinforces a book that I'm reading, Parag Khan on Move. I would highly recommend it because I don't know if you've read it. It really supports the transitory, really what's happened. He's a fabulous analyst. So thank you for your insights. So where do you see the luxury market heading in the next 5 years?
Well, as I said, the luxury market is on a stable trajectory as long as the stock markets hold up, as long as there is, equal supply and demand. There will be an imbalance. One of our reports earlier this year said that for the next 3 years, you're going to see an imbalance of 3-to-1 in terms of the ratio, like demand versus supply, right? And that will continue because it takes time for new developments and new builds to come on the market. It takes an average 3 years for a new building to stand up. And even homes, they're not built overnight, right? So for that inventory to come on the market will take some time. But I see nothing but good times as long as we don't end up with some, to me, that is a big fear. I mean, really, if you're looking at what's going on, in the last few days with Russia and Belarus and Poland or China and Taiwan, and then, you've got these simmering conflicts in, Ethiopia and all these other places and Yemen and all that. All it could take is one little spark. If you remember what happened with the First World War, you already had, issues with Austria-Hungary and with Germany and Russia and all the great superpowers, but it took the assassination of the Austrian heir to basically tip us into the First World War. So there is that fear that, the unintended consequence of one incident will force someone to take sides. And that to me is a worry. Other than that, I think we are okay.
And so what's next for Luxury Portfolio International?
I think what we want to do is really, really engage with our agents. What I find with most networks, and it's not just Luxury Portfolio, with everyone else too, is that you might have a boatload of beautiful products and 50 plus services and all that. But if the grassroots doesn't understand how to use them, it's PR. It's just marketing. My job is to make sure that those 150,000 agents, and of which the 10% are luxury, so those 15,000 agents in our network who really sell homes upwards of $5, $10, $15, $20 million, they really understand what the program stands for. They really use our program beyond just discounted advertising. I want them to take advantage of the research and then apply those findings to their market outreach, to really understand what it means, to convey that to their sellers, to convey that to their buyers. Attend our events and network. Understand the potential of referrals. If you know that your client is moving to Las Vegas, then you make sure that you contact your peer sitting in Vegas and say, hey, listen, I'm sending you a lead. And guess what? If that person buys a home to that agent in Vegas, they share the cut. So the referring agent gets a cut of the commission, right? So that's what we're trying to do. And then, when we do our webinars, our luxury hours, our events and all that kind of stuff, expose them to culture. Bring architects on, interior designers, tastemakers, authors, photographers, and folks like that who talk about not just 5 ways to win that listing. No, talk about wallpaper and colors and what do you do in the hallway versus the bedroom versus the parlor versus the garage, things like that. How do you basically make sure that you can talk a sophisticated lingo when you go and meet someone who is used to buying Rothkos and who's used to seeing Renoirs every morning she wakes up, right? How do you recognize that? And that is important for us. When we teach you about Hermes and Cartier and Louis Vuitton, how do you recognize the tank watch versus a Santos? How do you recognize an Hermes scarf? And just a slight comment in the passing can mean you winning that listing versus your competitor. So that is what I think is my mandate, to make sure that whatever we produce, services, products, it percolates to the grassroots. It percolates to the agents for whom we've produced all these products, and that they can deploy it to their best advantage. So make sure that the communication is right. Make sure that when we go out to market and when people see us, they feel sufficiently attracted to our brand or to our brokers in each market and say, hey, you know what? If I'm looking to switch brokerages as an estate agent, I'm thinking I will move to someone who is affiliated with Luxury Portfolio International, because they have all the tools and resources that I need to make me a better agent in the market. And so that is my mandate.
So, Mickey, I want to thank you for your time and sharing your thoughts on the luxury real estate market in other areas of our economy. It was a delight, and good luck as you move forward, as you take over the world.